Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar on how to conquer the I hate e-learning stigma. Now, my name is Grants Sills, and I'm head of sales at Frog. And I'll tell you a little bit more about Frog shortly as we go through this. But myself, just very quickly on myself, I work for several different learning management system providers and content providers, and this subject has been coming up on and off for years and years. And the I hate e-learning stigma is something that came up well before the pandemic that we've just gone through for the last couple of years, well before that. But I think with what's gone on and the kind of resurgence of digital and distance learning and the importance of getting it right, this has been highlighted again, and it's something that it's a topic that I actually hold. I'm quite passionate about this, so I'm going to enjoy going through this with you guys today and talking to you a little bit about it. But what we're going to do is go through how to conquer the stigma, some ideas on how you can refresh that if you've got an LMS and you've maybe not got great engagement, or you know looking for new ways to keep it fresh. I think you'll take away quite a bit from this. But anyway, without further ado, I'll go through and explain a little bit about Frog. So Frog have been around for over 2 decades, predominantly in the education sector, so creating tech for schools. So initially, the tech was created for organizations and for people that not only were they not techie, but they never wanted to be techie. So everything that we've created has been very easy to use, very quick. Everything's done as few clicks as possible. And then around 3 years ago, the Frog Learning Management System was launched and made a lot of those lessons and learnings available for the education sector, for the professional development sector as well. So that's a very quick crash on Frog and a little bit about what we do. I won't labor all these points that you can see on the screen. If you want to check out more, definitely check out our website, and you can learn a little bit more about who we are and what we do, and yeah, what we're all about. So in terms of what we're going to be going through today, these are some of the points that we're going to be discussing and going through. So one of the biggest ones is, why do e-learners, why do they hate e-learning content? Because the stigma is very real. You can mention it to some people. The first thing they'll say is, I don't want to do e-learning. It's too long. It's boring. I don't have time, that kind of thing. We all know that comes up. So we're going to go through some of the reasons why. In terms of this statement comes up a lot. I see it a lot on LinkedIn. If you're on there, I'm sure a lot of you guys are, but one of the things that comes up is to say an LMS or software in general around this is not the sole solution. So we're going to have a chat around that and the importance of why providing quality content, giving everyone the opportunity to develop, planning a strategic rollout, gathering feedback and leveraging expertise. And I'll go into more details about these as we go through and kind of, like I say, explain each of these points and what you can do about it, of course, as well. So, why do learners hate e-learning content? One of the biggest reasons that comes up is that it's boring content. Now, I've seen a lot of different types of content, even well before being in the learning industry. And if you've got things where it's like slides and slides of text, it really can be really laborsome to get through it, and it's never something that you really look forward to doing. So that's one of the big reasons, is that it's boring, too long. So if we're sending out digital learning or we're trying to fit these in, our colleagues, these learners that we've got, they all have their own jobs to do, don't they? They've all got their own things that they need to do and get on with. They can't be carving out an hour and a half, 3 hours every other day to do e-learning content. There's a lot of different other reasons on here as well. So things like it's irrelevant or it doesn't align with organizational goals, not understanding the relevance and outcomes of that training, and poor content quality as well. I'll just make it clear as well, as we're going through this, I'm going to be looking to my left a little bit because I've got 2 screens. So don't worry, I'm not getting fed up or distracted or anything like that. I've just got my other screen over here. So I just thought I'd let that out. So also around why they don't like it being compliance-led and having a lack of interaction as well. And we're going to go through these, like I say, some of these points. But these are, like I say, that really the reason why people don't like e-learning content. An LMS is not the sole solution. This is a statement that comes up all the time, that you can't replace human interaction with a digital platform with digital content. Well, we at Frog completely agree. You cannot replace the human interaction. It is absolutely essential, especially for certain topics around learning or getting that, getting people excited and wanting to get involved and develop and changing mindsets. The human interaction is absolutely essential. But an LMS is an incredible tool for a great strategy to be able to scale it, bring it to more people, make information readily available. So it's all about how you leverage that and how you bring it in. One of the biggest ones that I see as well is, and especially it's conversation that comes up around this topic, around the LMS not being the sole solution, is that compliance is important, of course it is. We don't have to do everything being compliance led, and that's something we're going to talk about later as we go through this as well. And the big thing is that your learners, they're not just names and numbers, they're real people, and they really want to be valued, and everybody has, slightly different aims of where they want to be, what their own personal objectives are, and it's really important to understand that. So yes, this statement, and LMS is not the sole solution, we wholeheartedly agree with it. Absolutely, it's about getting that right strategy, bringing that blended approach, making people feel valued, and taking them to the next level. So the importance of why, this is a really, really good point. So when you're positioning content and you're explaining why people should do it, this is a great part of this conversation we're having. This is a great part of it to really get people involved and understand what it is that you're doing and why you're doing it. So positioning your offering, making it relevant, what's in it for the learner. So if you're a learner, you imagine you put yourself in their shoes. What are they getting? What are their benefits from going in and doing this content and understanding what they're going to get from it once they've finished, what's in there. Explain what makes it essential, and they really need to understand and value that content. So I'll give you a quick example. So let's say you've got some content on leadership and management development that you want to roll out. So rather than saying to your managers and leaders, okay, here's some content, it's going to train you up on being a better manager. You might get some people who would think, well, I'm doing pretty okay as I am just now. I don't really need to do it. Or they might not be that engaged because they think, well, I'm probably not going to learn that much from it. But if you were to position it to leaders and managers to say, hey, would you like to be able to have better conversations? Are you struggling with having uncomfortable conversations with your team? Do you want to know how to take them to the next level and really bring the best out of them? What manager would say no to that? That's absolutely something you want to do. And I've just given you an example of some soft skills, so leadership, management, and development, that kind of thing. And I guess that really ties into, and not to go down too much of a diversion here and taking you guys away from the point, but one of the biggest topics that's come up recently is things like the Great Resignation. People moving organisations to go to different positions and that kind of thing. There's a big theme about people leaving bad managers or managers that aren't capable, and I'll go into this in a bit more detail as we go through that, but taking your managers to the next level and getting it so they can really, look after their teams and value them. Because traditionally, people have been promoted because they're good at their job, not necessarily because they're great with people. But anyway, moving on. I've gone down a completely diverted from the point that I'm getting at here. But in terms of offering the importance of why and positioning that content, it's not just about, so I give an example there of soft skills. You can do it with compliance as well. Let me give you an example, GDPR. Let's be honest, it's not the most thrilling topic of all time, but we do need to do it. It is very important. So rather than positioning that GDPR content as, hey guys, guess what? You've got to do GDPR content. Here you go, assign it. If you don't do it, there's a stick that will come down upon you if you don't. Rather than position it in such a way, if you go through the GDPR content, there are some staggering figures around there. The figures that an organization can be fined with if they don't reply, or if data is leaked, what the consequences of that can be. So if you're putting out your contacts, putting out communications, around those points, rather than just saying, okay, here's GDPR, you could say, hey, wouldn't it be terrible if we were fined this amount of money, or if this information was leaked? Imagine if a family member of yours had this information leaked from this organization. Here's how we can prevent it. And like I say, a lot of those figures, a lot of those facts are pretty staggering, even in a topic that you'd probably say is not the most thrilling of all time. But anyway, so the whole point of this is positioning the importance of why and what they're going to get from it and how you do it is a really important point. Providing quality content is something I'm really, really passionate about. Providing quality content is really, really important. So the first thing is make that content as bite-sized as possible. And when we're saying that, don't focus on having it 30 seconds long. What we're getting at here is make sure that the content in there is only essential information. So let's say, for example, it's something where it's blended. They have to do content and a workshop. If there's stuff that's going to be mentioned in the workshop, keep it in there. Don't put it into the e-learning content. If there's standardized information, you could put some of that into it. but keep it concentrated around the whole point. Don't have anything in there that's not relevant. And like I say, keep it as tight as possible. Careful use of engagement functions. So when you're going through e-learning content, having slides and slides of text is really boring. To go through and just read slides and slides of text, you can, and I'm sure a lot of you guys have seen it. I'd be very surprised if anybody who's on here and hasn't seen them. But there's lots of different the interactions you can see on e-learning content these days. Hotspots, or where you type in the missing answer, and different activities you can get involved with. Now, I've put on here careful use of engagement functions. If you overuse them, your content can end up becoming really cumbersome and a bit of a labor to go through, but also it can come across as a bit condescending, and you don't want that as well. Understanding learning preferences. There's a ton of different learning preferences, and I'm going to kind of touch on this a little bit more about understanding learners later on, but make sure you take that into account. Make sure the content is relevant to that learner. Don't be sending out content that they might need or might come up, and it's not got any point. If you're sending it to them, make sure it's relevant to them and that they're actually going to take use from it. Take lessons from that. Take advantage of the range of providers. There are a ton of e-learning content providers out there. There's hundreds and hundreds of them, and some of them are absolutely brilliant. Take advantage of those guys. You can shop around at different providers if you're looking for something that's, for example, really engaging. There's some brilliant animated suppliers these days who do animated e-learning content, and it's nice, short, sharp, and to the point, and it's very different and very refreshing from that standard type of e-learning content. But anyway, the point is, there's a ton of e-learning content providers out there these days who are really passionate about what they do and execute it very well. If you're making the content internally and you're doing that, make sure it's content that you would enjoy doing. If you get to the end of an e-learning module that you've created and go, I don't really like it, it's a bit boring, you can't expect anyone else to like it, not really. So if you're going out and you're creating that content, make sure it's something that you would enjoy doing. You go, yes, that's great, I'm glad I've done that. And I'm glad I'm going to be sharing it with other people as well. Know your audience. So in terms of the people that you're going to be sending this content out to, have a think about who these guys are. If you know things like learning preferences and needs, so you've got visual learners, people who prefer to read certain parts of it. In terms of your audience, you might have a collection of people who are very hands-on with what they do with work. Those guys might learn differently from people who are in a head office every day. So have a really good think about who it is that you're sending this content out to, where they are, what their learning preferences might be, what device are they trying to access this on. Make sure you take that into account. You can have different things on there. Is there a social impact that would really help with this and that particular topic that you've got for a certain collection of people? Like I say, everybody's different. Every part of your organization, your different groups are all going to be slightly different. Take that into account when you're rolling out that content. Spaced repetition. So this might seem like a bit of a random screen, but this is a really interesting point. So one of the things that I wanted to do for you when we created this webinar internally and said we were going to do it, is to give you guys some of our secrets when we're creating content and what that looks like. So with Frog, you can create your own e-learning content, but we also go through and train our partners on how to create that content to make it the best that it can possibly be. Years in education has really backed this up as well. But spaced repetition is something that comes up time and time again, and it's something that's very effective. I'm not going to labor this point with you guys, but if you go to any popular search engine and type spaced repetition into there and have a look at the studies that have been done over years and years around spaced repetition and how it helps to, like I say, really retain knowledge, it's a very interesting point. And like I say, a lot of interesting stuff around it. So having spaced repetition helps people retain knowledge. You can put it in there, and like I say, it's great for testing and for actual practice for what you're doing around that particular module. But spaced repetition is a big one. Check it out. Have a quick search of it. See some of the points that have been used and it's effective. And you can kind of should we say drizzle that into your e-learning content or the content that you're putting together. But spaced repetition is a big one. Give everyone the ability to develop. So what we're talking about here is, if you've got a learning management system in place, you've got a great tool in place. You've essentially got a knowledge base full of great development on skills that people can practice, or different information on certain topics that you've got this huge database. Take advantage of that fact. Give everybody the ability to take themselves to that next level. So, of course, yes, you've got to have compliance and bits and bobs and all that lot, but it doesn't just need to be that for that. You don't have to lead with compliance all the time. You can create a library of content on there. You might want to bring it in around things like I mentioned before about having difficult conversations for managers, or if you've got some, very particular skills, put that on the learning management system and make it available for people to go into if they want to. It's a great one as well. So let's say, for example, someone's having a conversation with their manager and they're saying, "Oh, I'm not very confident on X, Y, and Z skill," or that's come through. You can say, "Okay, check this out. He's actually on the LMS that we've got. Jump on there, check it out, and give everybody access to that knowledge to, like I say, really change mindsets and bring them to the next level." But like I say, it allows you to bring out the best in your people. Don't need to just have an LMS for compliance. Of course, we have to do it, but you don't have to lead with that. This is a great opportunity having this an LMS in place to have that reach and have it so that people can access all this information in just a few clicks. It's an opportunity to change mindsets and get people to have that more of a growth mindset. So instead of them saying, "Oh, I don't know how to do that," they can say, "Well, I don't know how to do that, but I know where I can learn to do that, or I know where I can get information from that." And mention this to managers and leaders as well so they can really signpost this. I mentioned before about the great resignation that we've been going through, people resigning and moving to different positions and all the rest of it. Having an LMS and giving people the opportunity to develop, an LMS is part of that, I guess, but giving people the opportunity to develop is a great way to retain your best talent, making people feel valued, taking them to the next level, that kind of thing. So it helps you keep your best talent, but it also helps you attract great talent. So if you've got somebody coming to you for an interview, they want to join your organization, you can say, "Well, it's great that you've got these skills. Here's how we can develop you further. This is the kind the thing that we offer." That's what people want to do. Because like I say, it helps them grow. It helps them feel more valued. But yeah, like I say, it's great to retain and attract great talent if you use it properly. So planning a strategic rollout. Now, I'm not going to go through all these points. I'm going to leave these on the screen while I talk around this kind of thing. Having the right strategy is very, very important. So time and time again, historically, I used to see it quite a lot where they would bring in a learning management system, open it up to everyone, and hope that everybody just gravitates towards it. Doesn't work like that. And then they're quite shocked when they have very little engagement and people don't really understand why it's there. So in terms of creating a strategy, make sure that you've got help in doing that from your provider. But what you want to do is create a real strategy for a roadmap. So first of all, when you launch an LMS, you don't want to launch it to everybody at once. Instead, you want to pick a section, an audience, so you can roll out to those guys and understand these different points. So what is it that you're trying to achieve with this learning management system? Who are these people that you're going to roll out this LMS to? When you roll it out to those guys, get some feedback. I'm not going to labor that point because we're going to have a chat about that as well as we go through. Get some feedback and fine tune and tweak your strategy with the audience that you've done your small launch to. And so you get that formula absolutely right and then go big with it and roll it out to more people. But having a great strategy for it. So, and this is something that, and I'm going to mention this as we go through, but having the right strategy in place, there's no one size fits all solution for that. It's down to every organization. Every people in different organizations are different. Structures for organizations are different. So your strategy has to be the one that suits you guys, and one that you make internally. But like I say, having a strategic rollout is very, very important for getting engagement and create excitement around it as well. I explained before about, explaining the why for people. When they're looking at this, you can really dial down on that and really dial down that point, even pre-launch. This is what we're going to be doing, and here's what you guys are going to get from that. This is how it's going to benefit you. This is how it's going to help for you, and you can create that buzz around it. But like I say, planning a strategic rollout is very, very important. Gathering feedback is one of my favorite points, and I think it's overlooked all too often. Gathering feedback is a great way to know exactly what's going on. So e-learning content isn't about ticking boxes. It's very, very much about hearts and minds. And I'm sure you guys, if you're looking and having a look at a webinar such as this, that you'd agree that it's not just about ticking boxes. Yes, of course, compliance is important, but it's really about hearts and minds and taking people to the next level and understanding them. So if it's all about hearts and minds, you really need to know what they're thinking and feeling Gathering feedback is a great way to do that. Don't be scared of feedback. Sometimes it can be pretty hard to read through it, but it'll absolutely give you that information as to what's working and what's not, and allow you to make tweaks and changes and evolve your learning, your digital learning, and even your wider blended offering and that kind of thing as you're going through. Absolutely ask for that feedback. You can do that. You might want to have feedback surveys, people giving feedback to their managers or whatever as that comes through. Pulse surveys are also a really good one to see how people are getting on, what they think about certain topics, especially around your LMS and digital learning. Understand what you're doing well. Really gives you sets you up for a formula for success. In terms of what people are saying that you're doing well with it. So it might be that all this content's really good. It might not come out at convenient times, though. That's something to think about. But anyway, the point is, get that feedback in, understand what's going on, make those tweaks and changes as you're going on based off of that feedback that you're getting. Leveraging expertise. So this is one of my favorite parts. So if you've got a learning management system in place, or you're looking to go and get one, consider your needs and requirements. What does your organization need to get from a learning management system? What are you not able to do without it? Or if you're looking to change, what you're not able to do with the one that you've got currently. But understand what your needs and requirements actually are, and have a think about who's going to champion this internally for you. So if you're bringing in a learning management system, who's it going to sit with? Who are the champions going to be? What's that going to look like? Because these are the guys that are going to go out there and really make it, a song and dance and a shout about it, and be really, really key in your strategy that you're going to roll out. If you've got a learning management system provider, what are they doing to support you? Learning management system providers are great people to tap up in terms of what works and what doesn't. They help, or imagine should be, helping their customers, roll out in a massive range of different situations, different organizations. So what are they doing to help you? What's your time frame and implementation for launch? So set up an actual strategy. We talked about it before about the launch strategy, but what's the time frame for implementation? When do you want to launch it internally? What have you got to do before that? What's your launch going to look like, and how are you going to measure that success? And that really leans into what does success look like for you. So once you've rolled this out and you've got it to the you've got it to where you want it to go, get it to where you want to be, and you have a think about that. What does that actually look like? I mentioned this point before. There is no one-size-fits-all solution for every organization that comes out of the box. It's just not a thing. In terms of the strategy and what you want to get from it, every organization is different. The final bit of advice is don't look for a supplier. I'm sure you guys have a ton of different suppliers. Look for a partner. Look for someone who's just as interested in your success as you are. Measuring success through data and analytics is great. Yeah, of course it is. Absolutely. But measuring success in terms of feedback of you hitting your learning objectives, that's even better. So thank you for listening to my webinar today. If you've got any questions, or if there's anything you want to catch up on, or there's anything you're not sure about, or even if you want to see what we do in a little bit more detail, feel free to pop over an email and we can arrange a conversation, and you can check out more at froglms.com. Thank you very much for your time today, guys. Have a great day.